welcome everybody to our Energy Talk on Wednesday, noon, Florida time. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy therapist, and coach. And we come together here after the energy prayer to discuss things pertaining energetic sensitivity, vibes, energies, resonances in this world and how they affect us, and maybe what we can contribute to raising the vibration. So let's welcome everybody. I see where you guys are from: Canada, Australia, Denmark, London, so many different places. So thank you all for coming. The subject that we just addressed in our energy prayer had to do with selfishness and selflessness, and in how this can be embodied and cultivated to a higher expression. All right, so we're all kind of under fire here a bit. We're all in a place where we see things on the outside changing, maybe even on the inside, but where we are forced to make changes. Maybe we have to change our approach a bit. Maybe we have to change the people that we're with. Maybe we have to change where we live or where we work or what relationship we're in. But there barely is anybody in this world, in this Western world that is untouched by all these new dynamics that are happening. And there's a lot of talk about the Great Awakening. There's a lot of talk about sort of the new coming in and the old paradigm needing to go, and that things most likely aren't going to be like they were, and letting go, and all these words. And here in our energy talk session, I'd like to address them with you. What this even means, and you can also ask questions about this here at transCODES. We have a long tradition of these kind of talks and workshops and webinars from our Sacred Self-Healing community. So if you're familiar with this work, you know that it's all kept neutral, that we don't just look at things from the energetic and subtle perspective, but also from the perspective of systematic consciousness training and how we can help ourselves to show up in a more balanced, less dualistic, and less conflicted way, understanding that it is human to experience all these dualities, all these conflictions from within. So it's the attempt here for us to learn the steps that are needed for us to navigate through our life in a more conscious way, and with it, obviously, also to navigate through this world in a more conscious way. And I would love to hear from you guys what it is that you find the most challenging right now in maybe embodying your higher expression, trying to cultivate a more conscious or conscientious or unconditional, less judgmental way in your personal life. What do you find most challenging in your personal lives right now, as far as like sort of translating your ideals, your how you would like the world to be and to become, in your practical life? What are some of the pitfalls or the barriers, the blocks that you run into, be it with yourself or other people? What makes it hard to show up in your highest expression? What makes it hard for you to express yourself freely, authentically? and not sort of being egged on or excluded or abandoned all the time, which is something that most of us energetically sensitives have experienced in the past. Fear. Cindy is talking about fear and those kind of fears that come from within. Now, self-preservation, what you're mentioning here, Cindy, is a human trait, and it is a very important one. Okay, self-preservation has to do with making sure that we survive whatever the challenge is. And there's obviously different gradients of this. We all need shelter and food. We all need a fundamental sense of belonging. All right, and that is a given. Yeah, if we do not take care of these things, they're referring back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If some of you want to study this a little more, this is a fundamental psychology. Like what is it that we as humans need? It's instinctual, if you will. And self-preservation can also sometimes mean that we have to maybe take something from others or get more, or I don't know. That's kind of like what I would like to discuss with you. All right, so our need, our need to preserve ourselves, to survive, can sometimes conflict with our higher ideal, to be there for the world, or to show up in sort of a way, that we would call our higher expression. But what's the problem with that? All right, yes, Aneta is very practical here, and that's exactly the level on which I want to talk to you guys about this when we're too busy. Yeah, absolutely correct, Aneta. When we're too busy, what happens? We can't do that. When we're too busy, we basically function from like an autopilot mode. We're starting to function without us being fully aware of this in sort of a fire put her out or kind of way. But let's do this systematically here. What makes us too busy? What makes us so busy that we can no longer discern if the way we're showing up, or what we're prioritizing, or the way we're approaching things may not be all the way up to our own higher expression? What makes us so busy, guys? If that's our devotion, if that's our priority in life, is if showing up the best we can, and meaning the best as in the sort of the highest expression that we can at a given moment, if that's our devotion, how can we be too busy with what? What are these businesses that we pay so much attention to that we can no longer remember, who we truly are and whom we want to experience this life as? Yes, busy for Linda, for example, is running around in an endless loop, and you call this ego. Well, let's be fair here. We need ego. Okay, this is part of our survival mechanism. So ego is a big part of our physical, emotional, psychological survival. I mean, this is why we make it through trauma. This is how we can get through crisis, and through challenges. So ego is nothing bad per se. The endless looping part here that you've mentioned, Linda, that's something to be concerned about, because if it's an endless loop, what's the nature of an endless loop? Break this down, guys. It's not the fact that you have an ego. What's the actual problem with this, Linda? What's the true nature of an endless loop? Yeah, you get exhausted. You get exhausted and it never ends. Exactly, Noah. That's the biggest problem with an endless loop. It never ends. And why does it never end? Because most likely we're not really changing anything. Yeah, we're getting the same results because we're not really doing anything. We're not changing the approach. We're not changing Maybe we do in small ways, but yes, exactly, Cindy. It functions like a distraction. Yes, and you guys are already good at identifying what might be the cause for that. Linda, you've identified this yourself, not focusing on truth, what truly matters. Yeah? What's truly important to you, what you truly feel, what you truly need, what you truly want. Yeah. And then it leads to stagnation. Yes, stagnation is the consequence of looping, of being too busy. Too busy doing what? You're going to have to learn how to investigate this with yourself, guys. If you are worn out and busy, too busy to focus on what you're feeling, what you truly want, what you truly need, who you truly are, wouldn't you say that there's an issue with priorities in your life? There's an issue with your focus. So when we are too busy to focus on what we want, who we are, what we need, and how we, can bring this into expression. We are not aware, guys. We are asleep. And this is the tricky part. The tricky part is that we don't realize it. But now, let's investigate the mechanics of how that even happens. How does it get to that? How can we get so busy with stuff? And the funny part about this is we literally believe that we are doing something. We literally have this illusion that we are changing something. Yeah, so this is the extra layer here. It takes a lot of self-inventory and self-reflection to uncover this for yourself. Bella is sharing, busy is cleaning the house, grocery shopping, work. Feels like when doing this, I need to focus on these and yes, and unfortunately, do not know how to integrate doing all this with my authentic self. Okay, this is a wonderful example, Bella. I hear you. How can one balance that? How can one stay in focus to one's own devotion, to one's own higher expression, and cultivate that when there is a lot of activities that need to be done? For me, obviously that took me 20, 30 years to figure this out. It's very simple. I do everything I do with full consciousness. Everything. Whether it's cleaning, baking a cake, cooking dinner, cleaning up the dinner table, doing laundry. It doesn't matter what it is that I do. Everything I do becomes an act of devotion. Everything. And do I always do this perfectly? Do I always do this to the best of my abilities? Well, obviously I don't, but I try. And how do I know that, Bella, that I am trying? Because I'm consciously doing this. I'm staying awake while I'm doing this. That's how we cultivate that. So it's one thing to have a lot of activities to do, and again, when it's, a pure sort of to-do list, it's actually a very good example. All we need to do is prioritize better, yeah? And sometimes something's got to go. So what happens if we have so many things in our heads or to do, and we end up being so overwhelmed that we are exhausted without doing any of these things, and nothing gets done, and we feel like a total loser or whatever. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. What happens? We weren't conscious. Or there was something we didn't want to let go of. Yes, there is a narrative awareness warrior is mentioning that sort of keeps going in our heads. What does that narrative sound like, guys? Let's do real energy talk here. What does that sound like inside of you when you're in this fire putter outer mode? What does that sound like in your head? I gotta do this, I gotta do this. Oh my God, if I don't do this, what? It's the end of the world. Do you guys understand where I'm going with this? Oh my God, I'm not good enough. If I don't mop the floor right now, it's gonna come out that I'm not good enough. Yes, and it is right. And there's another layer on top of that is like, okay, I gotta do harder. I gotta do more. I gotta mop the floor more often, okay? Just so that I don't feel this uncomfortable feeling of not being good enough. That's how we get pulled into this, guys. The reason why we get pulled into our distractions and these never-ending loops is because we are afraid of feeling something. There is some kind of negative feeling, yeah, that comes with not being able, say, to fulfill our to-do list. But what we fail to do is look at the to-do list and say, wait, let's prioritize things here. Okay, saving the world. Okay, that's up on top of my priority list. Saving the world. That's a very sort of noble intention, but how much of that is actually in your power? And besides, how would you know that you saved the world? When does that end? That's an ongoing thing. Yeah, you're laughing about this, but you know, people forget that sometimes. Yes, we can get pulled into like how bad everything is in the world, and we can, you know, go into this depression with it and feeling the pain of other people. And how is that going to help? It isn't. Yeah. And even if you have the resources, say you have a lot of money and you want to contribute to good causes, all right? The way you need to prioritize that is obviously still in conjunction with how much you can afford. So I can't donate $1 million if I don't have $1 million. And it wouldn't make sense for me if I have $1 million to donate 950,000 and not leaving enough for me to, like, say, pay my rent and my bills. Did I save the world right now? No. Yeah, so this is a priority thing that I want to show you. It has to do with your perception. Okay, so saving the world is not a good goal, although it's a very beautiful higher expression of your devotion. So maybe overall, everything that you want to do, yeah, should or you want it to be aligned to saving the world. But we could do a whole entire energy talk about what does it even mean saving the world? What needs saving? What needs to be saved? Right? So here there's another ego trap. It all comes down to us not wanting to feel a certain feeling, and then our ego becomes distracted with fear. So it all goes back to Cindy and Linda. Yes, it's fear. It's fear-based. There's something we don't want to feel, something we don't want to give up, something we don't want to admit, something we don't want to be seen. And that's why we keep ourselves busy with stuff that is supposed to bring relief or, you know, bring pleasure, yeah, just enough distraction, yeah, to get through to the next thing, yeah, or just enough projection to the outside world that other people get a certain impression of me, or that they like me more, that they think I'm all like a bag of chips and stuff. So Marigold, for example, is commenting here, feeling excluded and judged by family for choosing a path different from the current narrative. Like the current narrative as in their narrative or the collective narrative. that hurts. Yes, but what about that hurts? Let's investigate this, miracle. Let's take this apart. What hurts? Are you okay with going there? Yes, betterment awareness warrior is basically what this leads up to. But Marigold, what is it about you doing something, you choosing something out of your own consciousness, out of your own choice, your own freedom, yeah, to choose what is best for you, and other people don't agree with it for whatever reason, for like the reason inner narratives, you know, like what their beliefs are, what the best is, or outer narratives, what I don't know, certain governments or certain institutions or, you know, certain authorities say. What is it now? What is actually so painful about that? We could, you know, just recognize that, okay, everybody has the right to have their own views and their own approaches, okay, and yes, obviously we do want, you know, people that we love, that we have a stronger connection with, we kind of want to align with them, but doesn't, you know, living in harmony and in peace also include to give everybody else the freedom, yeah, to have their own choice and their own opinion? Of course it does, and we all know that. There is something else underneath that, feeling judged. All right, so how many times in your life have you observed yourself judging something, yeah, and then later maybe come into a different awareness where you say, you know, at the time I really thought that that was the best, or at the time I really thought that that was the worst, but in the course of, you know, trying, or in the course of my life, I found out that what I truly need or what I truly want is this. And so now it's different. So really all I want to say is that when it comes to cultivating selflessness and, you know, sort of keeping the promise to our higher self and the divine to show up in the highest way we can, all right? We cannot do things just so we get approval from others. This fundamental need for belonging is inherent in all of us. But if that need for belonging in families, that's very typical, well, doesn't coincide with people's opinions, you know, within our family, well, then what does that mean? Does that mean we can't love them anymore? Does that mean they can't love us anymore? No. It just means that we have different views. This doesn't need to be a negative feeling. This doesn't need to be something to be afraid of or to avoid. It needs to be something that we make ourselves become aware of. Okay, so you have a different viewpoint with this particular topic than I do, and you choose a different approach than I do, and that's okay. Now, if these approaches you know, sort of clash, then we're going to have to talk about the rules of engagement. Yeah, if your approach means, let's say, taking all of my stuff away, yeah, all of my toys away, okay, then of course I have to say, hey, wait a minute, that's not okay for me. And if your approach is maybe based on you giving everything away that you have, all right, and ending up with nothing, then that also points back to you not seeing the right boundaries. So we have to find the rules of engagement. We have to find the different gradients here and boundaries with, you know, depending on the type of relationship that we have. Same with Noah. Noah, you're commenting here. I worry about letting people down, feeding abandonment in me. Now, even though I know that I will serve them better by attending to developing my own energy capacities. Well, you're not really going to serve them better by developing your energy capacities. All right, that is a bit of a con job of the ego. You are serving yourself, and as you are serving yourself, yeah, as you're bettering yourself, okay, you are becoming able to discern better. You are able to see and feel your own needs better, your own wants and your own boundaries. You become more precise in your communication with others. You simply become more aware and more conscious of what you put out there. And in that way, yes, I agree with you, you are also serving other people, because as Cindy mentioned in the energy prayer here earlier, it's contagious. We all learn through osmosis. Okay, and if you are with someone who is able to say, hey, I feel like we're a bit too judgmental right now, or maybe we just need a moment to cool down, or maybe we just, need to discuss this later, because right now, it's very tense here between us, which expresses your energetic sensitivity as well as your detachment, and being able to stay neutral. In that way, you are also serving the other. This becomes especially apparent in relationships, yeah, because the way we are designed is to interact with the world and with others at all times. Which means if we can stay neutral, it also basically gives others the opportunity or the permission to do this. So this learning through osmosis, and that so for someone who's energetically aware is extremely important, because if your energy is in disarray, if you are energetically very imbalanced and you're trying to be of service to someone in an energetic way, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say. Okay, your energy will, sort of either lead to the person feeling calm, feeling safe, or it will contribute to the other person feeling judged or excluded. So if you're surrounded by people who make you feel excluded, Noah, then there's a problem with that. And a problem with you not recognizing that, well, that's their problem, really. Yeah, letting people down cannot happen. You cannot, this is an ego con job. We cannot let people down. The only the only sort of true power that we have to live up to is the promise that we give to ourselves, to our higher selves and the divine, namely to show up the best we can, to show up in our highest expression. We have no responsibility for other people. They are making the same promise. They either do it consciously or unconsciously. And it reflects in our karma. Our karma is basically then the echo chamber. It's the feedback that we get from life. Yeah. More efficient. Sorry, I didn't see when you texted this, Noah. But yes, you also become more efficient when you discern better, when you make this a very conscious sort of contemplation of how, this giving and receiving, yeah, me helping others, others helping me, we learning from another, how these dynamics actually work, okay? I would say the only situation in life where we are to a certain degree responsible for another person or living being is when we are parents and when we have pets. Those are decisions, that where we are stepping into a certain level of responsibility for certain levels or stages of development for children. And if you're talking about clients, for example, or friends, okay, and you are afraid to let them down, well, I'm not sure if you're actually seeing them as grown-ups then. Because the only people besides, our own higher self that we could ever let down are kids, are people that cannot take care of themselves yet. Yeah, and it depends on the setting, of course. When we are in a situation of being some kind of healer or health care professional, yes, then people pay us for offering them that kind of service. Okay, but then again, it has to do with boundaries. So if I offer to cut your hair, and you pay me for me cutting your hair, what I actually do is, I don't know, baking cakes, okay? Yeah, then there is a bit of a problem there. It's not congruent. And then I may have made false promises, and that is then, yes, that is then where the confliction with ourselves comes in, because maybe you want to be a hairdresser, and you're not okay with being a baker, and so you try to pretend to be a hairdresser. Yeah, you try to be someone that you're not, and that's then when we run into those kind of integrity and congruence issues. And that's typically when we feel very insecure about ourselves and constantly judged, because we are trying to produce a certain picture of ourselves. We're projecting something of ourselves, and that needs to be maintained. That needs to be, constantly fed. It needs to be, we need to put a lot of energy in producing that picture of ourselves. And it makes us insecure, and it makes us be afraid of, being uncovered. And those are situations, I'm sure that many of you feel here and there, not necessarily the extremes such as imposter syndrome. Yeah, there's also pathologies that can grip here. But it has to do with how much we judge ourselves and how much we are not okay with who we are. So what happens to that promise to my higher self and the divine then, if I constantly question and judge who I am? What happens to that promise? We're acting against it, guys. This is what keeps you busy. This is where we can uncover this loop. You are busy with trying to pretend to be something or somebody that you're not. And what you forget to do is to ask yourself, do I even want that? Is that even me? Do I truly feel that way? Really? That's the one thing you forget to ask. That's discernment. Yeah. And obviously in the process of cultivating your highest expression, it also comes down to asking the right questions. Is this leading me toward it, or is this leading me away from it? Because we are all more or less approximating our highest expression. We are not born in our highest expression. We're born with the potentiality, and we're working toward it. And so we have to understand that our life's path is ultimately, or our soul path, if you will, is ultimately leading us to our higher expression. Yeah? But whether or not we get there in this lifetime or in 100 more lifetimes, that has to do with how we cultivate that and how aware, how conscious we can stay, as we are doing it. And here is where most of us get, into this distraction loop. Yeah, we think we have to be a great cleaner to show up in our highest expression. Oh yeah, maybe that's not who you're supposed to be. Maybe, this is conversations that I have almost on a daily level. Maybe it's better for you to hire a cleaning lady if, the amount of time, say for example, that you spend on cleaning distracts you to a degree that your life's decisions become compromised. Yeah, and then it's just a matter of setting the right priorities. Yeah. Now you may have to pay something for someone who comes to clean your house, but if it gives you the headspace and the ability to find yourself more and feel yourself more, maybe it gives you an extra hour or two of physical rest, yeah, so that you can see clearly again, and so that you can see through all these distraction mechanisms and realize what you truly need to do or what you truly need to focus on. Well, I think that's money well spent. Yeah, so if you invest in you becoming able to discern better and to see these things more clearly, and a lot of that, guys, has to do with what I am modeling with you here for the last 10 years in all these webinars and live talks, is the systematic training of your perception, your way of thinking, and your way of expressing that, and your way of choosing. This is not mystical, guys. Energy work, or being able to feel other people's emotions, and these extra senses that some of us have, they are extra tools, but they do not predestine you to automatically show up in a more sort of higher way, or anything like that. Not at all. In fact, I came to find out that people who are energetically sensitive and empathic, that they have way more confusions and distractions than others. Yeah, I don't know about you, but there were times where I wished I would not sense or feel or see what I'm seeing. Anybody ever experienced that? Times where you wished you could be unconscious. Yeah. So it's not that you actually wish that you were unconscious, it is that you wish that you wouldn't be so distracted by it. And that can be trained systematically. It's not mystical. Yes, I know, guys. It's not a secret. This is something that we all need to do right now. This is basically the precipice, on which we are standing as a collective right now. That's where our realities fork now. Okay, the people that can stay conscious and with it become able to discern truth. Yeah, what is truly about, what is right for me, what is true for me, all these topics that we discuss here and that I train with my courses and programs. Or the people who choose to stay unconscious and choose to stay distracted. Mm-hmm. Yes, so how do we become able to cultivate our highest expression, to embody it? Cultivation leads to embodiment, okay? So we do well what we dwell on, okay? What you repeat 100 million times, you get really good at. Simple as that. You train yourself to question your own thought processes. Yeah, not yourself, your thought processes. Who says, Talk to your critical inner voice. All these things, I train those things here. Okay, yeah, to feel into your feelings, not just your emotions, guys. There's so much more to feeling, all right? And to learn how to decouple and, sort of sort and investigate your perceptions. Yeah, and as a human, with a sort of a limited mind, the mind is limited. It can only perceive on a bandwidth of so much, all right? We must agree to not always being able to see everything, even if we're energetically sensitive, even if you're trained. Yeah, because there are realms that you can't see, especially if you think that you can master this through your mind. Your mind is innately limited. Your heart has a much broader bandwidth, yeah, and therefore, and not your heart as in your emotions, but that part of you that connects you with who you truly are, with your energetic self. Okay, it has a broader bandwidth. So, for most of us, all these destructive loops that basically keep us away from showing up in our higher expression, they come through an untrained mind. Yeah. You literally don't know what you're thinking. And most people can't even discern between thoughts and emotions and sensations. Yeah. So it's a fundamental but very systematic training, all right, that is needed. If you find yourself in loops, you're gonna have to really start witnessing yourself more. Yeah, and then ask yourself, what am I even feeling right now? Because without that literacy, that vocabulary, you can't determine what's true for you and what's, sort of according to your highest expression, what's congruent with you. So this is why we all have these integrity issues. In the month of October, as I've explained this in the forecast for October, gives us a perfect opportunity for that, because due to these forking realities, we are being forced to question that. So yes, welcome to the world of consciousness, all right, in which you realize that, this is why the Matrix movies are cited so often. You know that for the majority of your life, you've actually lived in some kind of virtual or augmented reality of your mind. And to pierce through that, and basically also decouple from, the misuse of that. So mind control propaganda, for example, uses the fallibility of your mind. All right, all you got to do is train it. It's not that hard. Yeah, so if you need ways to learn this, check out my website, transcodes.com, especially the new course that I have called Energy Course, trains that in depth. All right. I also have a 24-step sacred self-healing program that allows you to sort of gradually grow into this, or personal energy coaching sessions, obviously. Yes. So this concludes the energy talk for today. Very lively, very vivid. I love it, guys. I love it when you respond like this, because that is where we are all embodying our higher consciousness, our higher expression, and allowing each other to learn, to cultivate and to embody this. Okay, we're empowering each other just by showing up, just by sharing. It's wonderful. So thank you, everybody. You've all raised the vibration now for everybody who's watching this and engaging in those kind of contemplations. And my special thanks for all of you who participated in the energy prayer prior to our energy talk, where we allowed this to go through our heart. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. See you again tomorrow, 11:30 for the energy prayer, the last daily energy prayer before I switch to the weekly energy prayer on Friday.